Welcome to the Family Home Podcast with Courtney and Michael Adamo. We're so excited to be bringing you this mini series to celebrate the launch of our new book, The Family Home. Over the next few weeks, we'll be diving into the themes of this book, talking about creating a home for your family that's filled with warmth, connection, and intention.
We'll be speaking with inspiring guests. We'll be sharing our own experiences. We'll be talking about everything from family rituals at home to how to create a more organized space. And pre-orders for the family home are open now. If you pre-order, that's the best way that you can help support us and this book and hopefully get it out to as many people as possible. We've popped a link to pre-order it in the show notes.
So today we'll be talking to Camilla Marcus, whose Los Angeles home is featured in the pages of our book. Camilla Marcus is a chef, a cookbook author, an entrepreneur, a mother of 4 young children, and she's based in the beautiful canyons in LA. She is known for her thoughtful approach to food, sustainability, and intentional living. Camilla brings the same values into her family home. It's a very warm, welcoming space that she shares with her husband and her 4 young kids. We're excited to talk to her today. She lives in a relatively small home for 6 people. When we were there photographing her house, I connected with her so much on her parenting philosophies and her intention in raising a family in a small home. So we'll be talking about that with her today. And I'm excited to talk to another mother of a big family, how she makes that work. I remember being there. She just had a baby, so she had a baby in a separate room, and then she had her 3 young kids sharing one small bedroom together, which is something you and I have always believed in as
Yes.
well, having our kids share a bedroom. So we'll talk a little bit about that. And she's a chef, so
Meals are very important to them.
yeah, meals and meal times. So I'm sure we'll talk to her about that as well. So we'll bring on Camilla, and I'm excited to share her thoughts and philosophies with you today. So thank you so much for joining us and chatting with us today. We're so excited to talk to you about your family and your beautiful home. We thought we'd start by asking you just to describe what family life looks like right now.
Oh gosh. Well, you're catching me on the heels of, a 2-month evacuation due to the fires. The fire was held right at our canyon. We're very fortunate to be able to come back home. Oh gosh, so family life, I'd say total pandemonium. But I actually think for us, it's really recentered our family on what's important, and that really ourselves being together and being healthy is kind of the most important thing about home. And I think we all have kind of a refreshed sense of the chaos is beautiful. We don't need anything to be perfect, far from it. And I don't know, it almost feels like this little wild refresh that, I don't wish on anyone and certainly wouldn't, want to do it again per se. But family life right now, I would say a whole lot of gratitude.
And you've got 4 young children. Your eldest is how old?
So it's 5, 4, 2.5, 8 months, and our baby had cranial surgery in December, about 3 weeks before the fires. So we are a traveling caravan that has been through a lot in the last year.
Wow. And if 4 kids under 5 is already a lot. But to throw in extra things. Yeah.
Yeah, but you know what? It's how the cookie crumbles, and I wouldn't have it any other way. I think that, again, I think the experiences, honestly, from the surgery to the evacuation to sort of being nomadic for a while, and I know you guys have some of a nomad experience yourselves. Honestly, it sort of proved why I wanted so many children. I mean, we're really our own village, and our children are unbelievably resilient and creative and self-satisfied and nurturing towards each other, I think, because of that. Not having school, our kids were out of school for about 2.5 months, and it's honestly amazing. I mean, we ended up in Montecito for a little bit, enrolled our kids in public school, and the teacher was like, he could probably hang with 7-year-olds and like he's pretty close to reading. And I was like, not bad for being out of school for almost 3 months. She was kind of like, yeah, I think when you have a really big family, honestly, they kind of become their own teachers in a lot of ways. And I think that that's just an immense sense of community. I don't know. There's just this real alchemy and specialness to having so many. So I don't know. This experience, I was like, okay, it's for good. Like, this is exactly what I kind of dreamed of. And, I wasn't totally crazy.
Well, we can completely relate to all that you said on that level of having a lot of kids. And I think
In
there's,
a self-contained unit, and yeah.
yeah, and there is a level of surrender that comes with having that many kids. So you kind of surrender to the kind of stuff that doesn't matter that a lot of people, I think, can take onto their plate because there's room for it. And when you have so many kids, it kind of just becomes about family, I find. But when I was,
For themselves, right? They also learn what's important, what really matters, what's really a big deal, right? You get a different sense of scale when it's yeah, there's so much going on, right? You're sort of like, okay, my parents are only going to hear something if it's a 10, which I don't know, again, kind of for better or for worse, like I'm not sure what that does to a child, but I think as now we see so much confidence building, I think, and they have each other and there's always someone to play with, there's always someone to challenge, and everything else is really extra. Um, I think there's just much more self-reliance and kind of like you've got so much in this team and everything in the outside world is just kind of gravy, which I think is a cool dynamic.
yeah,
Yeah.
we definitely agree with that. And when we were there at your house photographing, we touched on this too. You live in a really beautiful home in a really beautiful canyon in LA, and you would not even know that you're in a city when you're on your property. It's so serene and so beautiful. But your house is smallish for 6 people. uh,
Mhm.
and I remember talking.
Sure, somebody felt the same. It was very funny to hear them be like, "How many people live in there, and what's going?"
Who said that?
Our insurance company,
Oh,
'cause I
yeah.
think you're not in the zones that they cover. So they're like, "We looked at a satellite image of your house and like, boy, is it small." And you're like, "At the point of this." Like, yes, it is. And very intentionally so. Very intentionally so. I think I'm much more of a fan of you know, I love communal living. I shared a room with my brother my whole life. I, in fact, grew up in quite a small house. Funny enough, my husband grew up in a very big house,
Mm.
which I never liked to visit. And I think it affects I know that's obviously the entire concept of your book, but it affects the dynamics and the relationships and the family culture. And I think we very intentionally chose small house, big property. I always say we have outdoor cats. Like, they're not really home a lot, and even their room, there's nothing but books in there. Like, it's very intentionally boring. 3 eventually, all 4 will be in one room, but right now it's just the 3. People say, "Oh my gosh, how can you have 3 in one room?" It's like, well, really, it's there for sleep, and I actually think it sets better boundaries around sleep, around routines, around where they are and what they're doing in each room, and I want them outdoors. I mean, it's the reason we live in California. I mean, I just feel like all these kids that are inside with technology in a place, you guys too are lucky to live in a place that's so naturally beautiful and the weather's good. Like,
Yeah.
isn't that kind of the point of why we live here? So, and too, like we're very low tech, we keep things very lo-fi and again, kind of intentionally boring. Like I laugh when my kids are like, I'm bored. I'm like, great, enjoy, go sit. Um, but yeah, I mean, you see obviously this like whole homesteading trend and you read the research, right? And it's very true and I think we see it so much with our kids being outdoors and catching butterflies and honestly collecting flowers and sort of just really simple like when we had just gotten home a friend took our chickens and we had just brought them back The kids sat for 3 hours, honestly, just sitting and talking to the chickens. Like, they really missed them and told them all about where they were, and so I filmed them for a while just listening, and I was like, this is what we should be having children do, just, like, sitting at a chicken coop talking to animals, like,
Yeah.
it seems so crazy, but, we've kind of, like, lost the plot that kids just like being in the world. So I think our house really reflects, our philosophy around that, and yeah. Sorry, that was, like, a very long tangent, but yes.
Sorry about this. There's
Super important.
You know, 2 dogs, 4 children, 2 adults, chickens. I mean, I'm ready for goats. That's, like, our next phase. Half of us know that, half of us don't.
Yeah.
Uh, but for that again, like I said, I think really on purpose, and I think we talked about this when you were here. I find it really fascinating that it's very, I can't speak to other cultures, but I think it's a very American modern phenomenon of children deserve their own space. I hear that a lot. But really, your hope for your children is that they share their life with someone in whatever way that means for them, right? In any form. We're not a species that's really meant to be alone. Evolutionarily, that's not really where we're happiest. We're meant to be communal, whether again, that's one person or many and children or pets or whatever, but we're not alone. That's not actually our DNA. So I find it so fascinating that children are supposed to deserve alone time for 18 years. Then we throw them out into the world and we hope they like learn to find someone and cohabitate. I always found that so strange, right? I really hope to teach my children the opposite, which is inner peace comes from within, not your outside context. Like my friends laugh. I mean, I could fall asleep in the middle of a basketball game. Like if I really can go inward and kind of like shut it all out. I've always worked out in the open. People ask me how I work with so many kids. I'm like, I literally don't hear it. Like I can tune it all out and I could hear all of them screaming. And like inside, I'm hearing butterflies and, rainbows. But I think that's what I hope to teach them is it's not about the context. And also the real joy of life is having this connectivity, not being alone. And so I think it's a weird message that we send kids. Again, especially I think it's an American phenomenon of like, you need your own space and your own everything. And like that gives you a sense of self. But then eventually we want you to find that sense of self with someone else. And I think that's where also like finding relationships, I think becomes harder.
Mm.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. What about though in a small house for you and your partner? Is it hard to find time for yourselves, or do you have
No,
available?
I'm very strict about bedtime and boundaries. I always have been. While I am communal, I do not believe in co-sleeping. I do not believe in family bed. I know that's like in California, that is all the rage. My friends think I'm super mean. Sometimes my kids say that. My oldest son's like, so when are we having a sleepover? I'm like, I bred a lot of playmates for you. You have a lot of people to over with, and I am not one of them. Um, and we always have been very big about bedtime and that, our kids know that's our time. And I'm like, sleep or don't sleep, but like, this is the time the lights go out and you're in your room.
Mhm.
Your room's boring. So the truth is you're probably going to sleep. But like, if you really so choose to sit in the corner and read a book, like be my guest. And then same, I actually taught my 5 and my 4-year-old already to tell time. And I'm like, if there is not a 7, do not come touch me. Like, you like I said, again, you may do whatever you would like. We have, a little Tony that we got them for the holidays, and they have books and like quiet toys like Legos. Actually, I don't even know if they have Legos. I don't think so. I think they have like tub toys or something. I'm like, I don't know, talk to each other, like the fort. I don't know, but do not come into my room until there is a 7 in the beginning. Um, no, I think that's a big part of it too. And again, the indoor outdoor. I think a lot of our like alone time is you guys got to go outside or like we kind of have one big room, a 1-story ranch house. And sometimes it's like, okay, I'm on a podcast right now. We're all in communication of children need to be at the front end of the house. And I don't know. I think some of that too is like, I think it's healthy to say to your kids, I am a person. I mean, the amount of times I say to my kids, I'm not an octopus, I'm a human being. I also have things that I'm interested in. I also need space. I think if you teach your children to ask for space, like, I think it's also important to ask them. Like, you don't owe them every single part of yourself every second of the day. So I think and again, I think there's a very like California kind of hippie culture of this, like, I exist for my children, and I don't know. In that sense, I don't subscribe. Um, and I think it's really healthy to teach them too. Like, you know, we're adults, we're parents, we have other things going on, and it's okay to be like, respectfully need space. But again, it's also fortunate. I grew up, sharing a room with my older brother my entire life. I've never really had anything to myself. I'm the youngest of three kids. Like, I actually don't care. I remember a friend of mine saying, "Oh, you think you want all these kids? Like, try go to the bathroom by yourself." I'm like, "I actually don't want to." We have, like, jokes. I make my kids read me stories. They tell me jokes. Like, I love it. Like, I want someone talking to me from morning, noon, and night. I'm really kind of the opposite. So definitely fit for, like, the space and the
Yeah.
children. I really do. They laugh. They're like, "Why do you always want us in here?" I'm like, "Come on." But I do think, like, after bedtime, again, I think there are,
They're
you
boundaries.
know, breaks and look, they're also at school. I mean, there's that too. So,
Yeah.
Mm.
I wanted to talk about your bathroom because I remember the beautiful wooden bathtub and it looks so serene and just like such a um really such a typically not kid-friendly bathtub situation, right? But I want you to can you tell us, like, do kids use that bathtub and what is that bathroom to you?
so it was actually the first thing and like the only real major splurge that I sort of my husband and I each had a thing. His is our crushed ice machine, and mine was the wood. I was like, I don't care. Like anything else you can value engineer, like do not touch this tub. It's imported from Japan. It's a hinoki wood. It's a ritual soaking tub. My dad worked in Japan most of my childhood. I grew up very heavy with Japanese influence, cuisine, culture. Um, I just have always wanted one. It's like been on, I don't know how to use Pinterest really, but like my version of what a Pinterest board is in my brain. Um, so it was like literally the first thing I think that we ordered for the house because it takes, forever to get here. And it is interesting. We use it a lot with the kids. And in fact, again, similarly, I think a family culture element for us is, again, the sense of like, I want my kids to have freedom, but I also want to teach them respect. And that, like, it's not, I always tell them, I'm a chef and I'm like, this isn't Burger King. You can't have it your way. This isn't like custom for you. I think, again, when you live in a big family, that's
Yeah.
a big, right? It's like you get some things for yourself, but this really isn't for, this song is not about you, unfortunately or fortunately. And so with the tub, it's interesting. Like we've really taught them all three of my older toddlers from 2.5 all the way to 5 can bathe themselves. They know how to shower. They know how to soap themselves. Like we literally leave them in our shower by themselves. And then they know there's no soap in that bath. It is only for water. And there's a ritual. We have no toys. There are not allowed to be toys in that bath. They have a separate bath in their room. That's for like so, bubble bath. And so it's really like they choose it when I think they want that ritual, that wind down and kind of the simplicity. They know that it smells different. If they're not feeling good, we use it as a steam. Like we can steam that room because it steams pretty quickly. It's very small. Um, there is something special about that. And we talk about that. Like this is a different bath experience than a bubble bath in your room and we talk to them about what it is. They know the kind of wood, they understand why it's different, and we take care of it, like
Yeah.
they know there's no soap, there's no toys. Not because toys would do anything, but I want them to understand why that ritual, where it comes from, culturally, why it's important, and to have something different in that experience. I think it's cool. And like they know that you bathe before you go in. And like it's not about cleaning, it's about relaxing.
Yeah. I think it's so my mom used to do this. She used to, every once in a while bring out the really fancy, china and, like, her tea party set that she got from her grandmother, and, instead of, like, protecting it from her kids, she let us be a part of it, and she would teach us tea party manners, and we would have to sit there and be very intentional about what we were doing and how we were drinking our tea, and can you pass me this? And we learned table manners. And I think there is something about that ritual of it's like it's not a kid-friendly bath, so most people would say, "Okay, no kids." But actually, it's like, how can we teach our kids to rise to this occasion? You know, how can we teach them to have
Totally. And we do that throughout our house. I mean, one, never childproof because honestly, I can't use the childproof stuff. Like my friends laugh. I literally, if you childproof your door, I can't open it. I don't know what's wrong with me. There's no part of me that knows how to like function. So we had an early rule. I was like, we're never doing that. And friends are like, oh, but your knives are out. And I'm like, unfortunately, we're lucky no one's ever been hurt, but I tell them, "You take an adult knife, you will lose a finger, and you'll go to the hospital, and that will not be fun. But I'm not gonna tell you more than once, don't touch the knives. You have a set of your own." My kids have kid knives. They know where they are, but everything in our house is fair game, and I'm with you. I really we obviously believe in kind of, like, wry, respectful parenting. Janet Lansbury, she's one of my nearest and dearest, and I just think she's, like, one of the most incredible humans. Um, I agree. I think talking to them also about the why helps them respect the boundary and actually enjoy it. Because 'cause I'm with you, like, we brought out our fancy china for Christmas. We all had norovirus and the flu. It was, like, the worst the worst end of year ever. Like, all of us were sick, and I said, "You know what? I'm making duck." I do it, every year. And I was like, we are bringing out the fancy china. We are all getting dressed fancy. We're dying and we will die, the hour before and we will die the hour after. But we are sitting and we're going to use, but even in the day to day, like my kids use our ceramics.
Yeah.
We have a couple sets of flatware. Obviously, again, I host and I'm a chef and I have like one set of gold. They're not like gold, but to the kids, it's gold. They're like, I want the gold spoon. And they like know exactly where it's hidden. And I'm with you. I think the kids, I think there's this obsession with childproofing and things being off limits. And I think you're just not teaching them anything. And I think more than anything, when they understand the purpose, it doesn't feel like a rule, right? Like they can touch the wood and their children are so smart. Like they touch the wood and they know that it doesn't feel like any other wood in our home. Like it doesn't take a genius to know that. They have eyes, ears, and hands,
Yeah.
and we touch it and we talk about what it is and why and what the difference is. So I'm very much with you. I mean, we just never and it's funny, people tell me all the time, they're like, "Your kids have, like, an aesthetic appreciation." I said, "Because we talk about that." Like, why a certain couches in certain rooms, and why there's no food outside of the kitchen, because we have nice furniture, and they're vintage, and vintage means that we can't just go out and buy a new one, it doesn't really work that way, and, um it's like at a museum why we don't touch the art because it won't exist for the next person versus being like, don't touch the art, and like you said, like no kids allowed. I mean, it's also impossible. Honestly, it's dysfunctionally impossible in our house.
Totally.
So I think in hindsight, it's definitely based on our values, but I think a lot of it was like just out of necessity.
Yeah.
So, as a chef, I guess family meals must be really important for you. And you kind of describe what that looks like on a daily basis, or.
Yeah, I would say it's really all hands on deck and very communal. I mean, I think again, I talk a lot with my children about like, I want to respect some of their food preferences, but certainly, we're not doing a custom meal for four children. It's just impossible. And I don't want to live like that. So it's a lot of like, for example, in the morning, we probably make 4 to 6 things in combination, almost like a breakfast bar, and then it's sort of like everyone can pick and choose what they want. In the morning, we sort of talk about as a family, okay, what is everyone feeling like? Do we want something sweet? Do we want something savory? How are we feeling about fruit? And, it's not like I want blueberry pancakes. It's like, okay, I feel like something sweet. And so, and a lot of what we do with our kids is like they have to negotiate amongst themselves. Everything is sort of like you guys really have to come together. And then, similarly, I always say to them, like, I give a fruit option, I'll give a main option, I'll give a protein option. And then there's like one or two swing things. Like two of the kids really love bars and whatever. I'm like, great. If you want a bar for breakfast, not my jam. My oldest is like me. He's like, I do not want to drink or have my meal in a bar. Like it just feels very uncivilized to us. And so, he just won't. So he'll sit and wait till they're done with their bars and. So I think breakfast is sort of like I always think of it as like a hotel buffet, which I just always grew up thinking was so luxurious and lovely. Like everyone kind of gets to graze and, have what they want. And the baby kind of gets a smaller version of whatever they have. And then dinner is, I would say, it's like plated. There's a protein, there's a vegetable, there's usually some sort of grain or something. Very often my kids help cook. I mean, it's amazing to see my 5-year-old like fully cook a meal, an omelet. He can really do anything alone at the stove. All of them are very comfortable with knives. We talk about cutting boards. Every single one of them clears their plate and puts it in the sink themselves. Like we like to your point, we use proper dishes and they get cups and they help set the table and we sit together. Every once in a while we call them their beep beeps. It's a long story, but they're like little high kitchen helpers. Sometimes we'll be like, are we having a counter dinner? But that's very rarely.
Yeah.
I think it's really just the coming together and then, trying to teach my older son who eats. I mean, he's like he loves restaurants, he loves food, he loves cooking, but he's also a fast eater and it's a little bit like food is fuel. And I'm like, you have to stay and sit. And he goes, well, why? I said, well, meals are really right. It's about being together as much as it is fueling ourselves with the food. So until everyone's done, we sit. And I understand that feels weird to like sit with your empty plate, but you're going to sit and we're going to talk and we're going to wait till everyone's ready, and then we'll have, if we have something for dessert, a popsicle or some chocolate or whatever, we're going to have that together. So I don't know. We try and put a little bit of civility on this like crazy farm that we
Well, we
little moments of pause and civility.
Yeah, definitely.
we relate to that. I mean, Michael and I both grew up in big families. He's one of 7 and I'm one of 5, and we grew up sitting at the dinner table with our families, with our siblings. And so I think that kind of you appreciate that, and we definitely want our kids to have that same experience.
It's also just it's important family time together, especially as they get older and they become teens and they're going in different directions. To bring everybody together at least once or twice a day is really important.
Yeah, I think about that a lot too as we get older, having like a more proper meal. My kids eat somewhat early and I'm more of a night owl. So they laugh. We put them to bed and then we usually have dinner, just the two of us. They're like, why won't you eat with us? And I'm like, when they're a little bit older and dinner is a little more reasonable time, I think we'll like have a proper, sit down meal with dishes that everyone's serving themselves. But the same, I agree. And I think I just tell people like getting your kids involved in the meal is really important. Having that they do the grocery shopping, they go to the farmer's market, it's impossible for a kid to not want to eat something that they picked or they helped prepare. We also have this cute ritual, whoever cooks gets a standing ovation every meal. And like, a little bit of like
Appreciation.
you can really take for granted that someone worked for anywhere from 20 minutes to an hour, if not more, to put something on the table for them. And I think it is really important to like take a minute to be like, oh yeah, so, like a lot of love and effort really went into this. It's not just dinner.
Definitely.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Um,
What like a sheep camp.
a sheep camp.
Yeah, it feels like it's like a little mess hall because it's so chaotic and crazy, but
There's a bit of order as well.
yeah, a little bit of restaurant touches, something like that. My friend actually said recently, which I found was very spot on. She's like, you run your family like you do your restaurant. Like it runs very similarly. There's shifts, there's roles, everyone chips in. It's like, everyone's job is to care for the house. And it is funny. I was like, oh yeah, I guess that's true. It's like kind of all I know.
Well, I mean, that was definitely, apparent from being in your home and talking to you, but and it no, and it really is the way that we're not chefs, but we run our home in a very similar way. So, um, I feel like we can really relate to everything that you're saying.
Cool.
Well, look, it's chaos and order in good measure, right? Is kind of how I think of it. Like you need the touch points that are centering, that are predictable, like you said, having those moments in the day that we're really coming together and slowing down are important, right? Especially amidst like a lot of messiness where a lot goes by the wayside and we don't care about a lot. Like how do you put those moments of intention in a lot of the madness that you sort of have to put your hands up a lot?
Yeah, and I think that it starts with the intention to begin with, like really wanting that for your family. Like you sound like someone who knows really what you want. Um, and what sort of family vibe you're after,
And what type of humans you're trying
to raise.
to raise.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that,
Yeah, and I think finding that push and pull too, right? Of like who they are naturally and, you know, and what I know and believe, well, maybe not know, but what I believe at least now will help arm them, to live the happiest lives that they can. But, there's definitely like the push and pull of each of them has, right, their own very distinct personalities and vibe. And it's like, how do you blend that with sort of the family values?
yeah. Yeah. Amazing. Thank you so much for chatting with us. It's so nice to
See you.
talk to another mother of lots of kids. I can remember
Those like soulmates as far as like, family dynamics. I think we're getting to be more of like the rare birds. Like I said, I think it's really moving back to every person for themselves, the family being a lot less communal. And, I think things becoming almost too orderly. And again, kind of like indoor tech oriented and like almost too structured. That's kind of the way I see a lot of families moving.
Yeah.
And small family. I mean, even in LA, it's like to even meet a family with 2 kids is unusual. 3 is unheard of. 4 is like you're crazy. And, anything above that is like, how many accidents did you have?
We had a few.
We only have 1. I mean, we wanted 4, but we only had 1. But yeah, I mean, I do think even just like you said, the wanting of a big family is, I think kind of a fleeting thing in our society now, which is kind of sad to me.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I think I really love having a big family. I've always really wanted one.
Same.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for chatting with us.
Thanks for having me. I loved the question. I was like, huh. It makes you think about things and it's like day to day, you're just kind of like putting your best foot forward. And sometimes you're like, okay, there maybe is an intent and purpose in all of this.
Well, that was definitely true for us in writing this book. When you sit down to write, you think, oh yeah, like I do this because there's an intention behind that. It kind of sometimes things can just feel so natural or instinctive, and writing that book reminded us of the things that
Yeah, you make choices.
the choices.
You have a philosophy. Not always apparent in the day to day.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm sure, especially when you see other people's homes, then you're like, oh, like now, I don't know how you guys kind of handle this, but especially now when we see other friends' homes and it's like the bedrooms feel like playrooms, right? And I'm sort of like, oh, wow. Like, of course, it's hard to sleep when you have like, neon flashing lights on a noisy toy. It's like, how can you expect your child not to choose that?
Yeah.
Even small things like that, or like I said, I mean, most of my friends, their kids don't share rooms and they think that I'm like the worst mom ever that I make so many together.
Yeah, no, we've always been.
Big advocates of sharing rooms.
Yeah.
And our kids have always loved it too. Yeah. It wasn't.
No, my husband no one ever shared a room, even though they had a massive house. And everyone kind of had their own wings. And I remember when I was like, look, my non-negotiables the kids share. And he was like, I don't know. And I was like, you'll thank me later, but it's a non-negotiable. I learned so much sharing a room. And even with them now, it's interesting. Sometimes they'll be like, I want to sleep alone. I'm like, okay, someone can sleep with the baby. And, on protest, they kind of march over, they get their blanket. And 5 minutes later, they're like, I want to go back to my room. I get it. You guys are trying to find yourselves and assert yourselves, but like, I know you like it. Otherwise, you wouldn't sleep. You'd be crying all night.
Yeah.
But it is fun. And I agree. But it is, again, I think it's kind of like almost feels like an old timey ritual to share rooms now, which is kind of wild.
Yeah.
Yeah. W- When we lived in London, we had a bigger house than we have now. And there were enough bedrooms for our 2 boys to each have their own room up at the top of this house, and it was like lofty top, and there were 2 bedrooms, and the boys just wanted to share their own room. So one room became a playroom, and then their room became their room, and they were always like that until the eldest was like 16.
Oh, we'd often find them in the same
The same bed.
little hot bed together.
They had their own beds, and we'd find them in the same bed together.
Best.
Yeah.
Even split, I think, is interesting. Like, I shared a room with my brother, and people are like, "Oh, how?" And I'm like, "I don't know. Like, we're just kind of sleeping in there. It's nice."
Totally.
We do that too.
Yeah, our Ivy and Quinn, girl and a boy shared a room for like 3 years.
Well, and now Marla and Wilkie do.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
Anyway,
it's the best. Say, right? All this stuff has there's so much data around it that I find it interesting that there's such a resistance to it. Like, raised with animals, being raised with low technology, being raised very like indoor, outdoor, sharing rooms, prepping meal, like all these things. There's just so much data around mental health and stability and happiness. And yet, like, I don't know, you see so much it's funny, after you come into the house, I've spent so much time now being like, huh, okay, like that's why we designed it that way, or like that's where that goes because of this. And it did give me a lot of food for thought. I tell everyone about your books. I'm like, it does reflect when you really look at your own space, it does reflect a lot of the family values.
yeah, I agree.
Well, to say, I'm excited for the book. I'm excited to see. And I'm a total voyeur. I love looking at other people's homes.
Same. That was the most fun and rewarding part of creating that book was just going. We were in 24 different homes, and it was so inspiring. Like just these homes, just such honest reflections of the family living there, and so many creative ideas and
And great ideas about
solutions. And
parenting like you have, to learn from other people.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So it was really. It was, and then I came back and like I had already written the book before we went, and well, we had already written the book, and then we went and photographed the homes. I mean, I had to come back and like adjust things because I found so much inspiration and so many good ideas, and yeah. So yeah, the book will be out soon, and by the time people are listening to this, it'll be available for pre-order. So it's exciting. Can't wait to
Wow.
get a coffee.
I'm so excited. We were so honored to be part of it. Thank you for including me in the podcast. And again, we're pumped to see it, and I cannot wait to see the other homes.
Thanks so much for welcoming us into your home and then for taking time to answer questions today. We really
Well, I
appreciate it.
told you, if you want to come to LA for the book tour, you let me know. Happy to host.
Oh, we
good.
would love that. I'll definitely be reaching out.
Thanks so much for listening to this episode of the Family Home Podcast. If you enjoyed today's conversation, we'd love for you to read our new book, The Family Home.
Our book is full of thoughtful and achievable ideas for real family life, from clever storage solutions and shared bedroom setups to meaningful ways to display your children's artwork and how to make the most of small spaces. With stunning photography by our friend Amelia Rushforth, you'll see inspiring and thoughtful homes of all shapes and sizes, with so many ideas for creating a home that sparks imagination, encourages independence, and brings the whole family together.
You can click the link in the show notes for more information. We can't wait for you to read it.
Thank you.